Yeah, that's a tough one. You know, and I was on stage not too long ago. I was in Syracuse, New York. Yeah, well, yeah, for Syracuse, but the show didn't go so good. All because I was talking about Bill Cosby a little bit. Not a little bit, I'll be honest. Talked about him for like maybe 25 minutes. And a woman stood up in the back of the room and she screamed out, "You are a fucking asshole for saying these things." I know. Instantly, I felt, like bad. Not bad about what I was saying. I just felt bad, like, oh, that's too bad she doesn't like the show. I didn't realize it at first, but not only did she say that, she was rushing the stage. By the time I just saw this shadowy figure fucking charging up the aisle towards me in full fight mode. I was horrified. I said, oh my God, I'm gonna kick this bitch in the face. Lucky for me, I didn't have to. Security tackled her, but it was a really fucking horrifying scene. Scuffle ensued, and then, finally, she screamed out to me, "Women suffer." I said, I know. And ladies, I need you to know that I know. I need you to know, seriously, there's a lot of men in this room that identify themselves as feminists. I would include myself in that. Don't ever forget, we all have mothers and daughters and sisters and wives, and we want to see all these women do well and not be held back by the agenda. There's a lot of men like that in this room. There's a lot of men like that in the world. Or as we are known on the streets, bitch-ass niggas. But as this woman was wrestling and screaming at me, I started to take offense. And I'm gonna be honest, race was involved. She was a young white woman. Well-intentioned, but it's like not thinking it all the way through. Bitch, how the fuck are you going to yell at a black man about discrimination? She didn't get it. She just kept going. Women suffer. I know. Women suffer. Same team. Women suffer. I know. And this bitch went too far. We suffer just like you. Slow your roll, bitch. You suffer, yes, but not like me. Not like us. She goes, suffering and suffering, what's the difference? I said, come on, white woman, you know what it is. You was in on the heist, you just don't like your cut. You suffer, I suffer. You suffer, I suffer. That's how it works. Can't do comparative suffering. If you're hungry and your friend says, people are starving in Africa, so what, nigga? I still want lunch. Black people know about comparative suffering, and you know this is a fucking dead-end game. Blacks and Jews do that shit to each other all the time. You ever played Who Suffer More with a Jewish person? It's a tough game. Whenever you think you got the Jewish guy on the ropes, that motherfucker be like, well, don't forget about Egypt. Egypt? God damn it, I didn't know he was going all the way back to Egypt. What the fuck is wrong with her? What does she think? Does she think that I don't know that rape is wrong? Does she think that maybe I don't have empathy for Bill Cosby's alleged victims? And I would be remiss if I didn't remind you that technically these are all still allegations, although I admit it looks very bad. But perhaps, if she looked at it correctly, she would have empathy for me, the man she was attacking. 42-year-old black comedian. Obviously, Bill Cosby was a hero to me. And she doesn't know what it feels like to think that your hero might have done something so heinous. My God, you can't imagine. It'd be as if you heard that chocolate ice cream itself had raped 54 people. You'd say to yourself, oh man, but I like chocolate ice cream. I don't want it to rape. Didn't want to believe it. At first, I didn't believe it. I was like, man, these people are obviously trying to destroy Dr. Cosby's rich legacy. Even 34 allegations into it, I was still like, man, probably only raped 10 or 11 of those people. Hey, thank God. And I have $60 to my name. And a woman that I had met in Pittsburgh, a bad Dominican bitch, was coming to New York. She was going to spend the weekend with me. I couldn't wait for her to get there. She was coming that evening. But remember, I only had $60 for a whole weekend to entertain a bad bitch. Now I'm walking through Greenwich Village, and I see something I've never seen before. 3-card Monte. You know what that is? Yeah, the guy had the whole thing. The table was set up, and he had the 3 cards, and the crowd was hooting and hollering, and he was like, find the red card, find the red card. And people were playing. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose, but it was really exciting, and I'm standing there watching it, and I noticed while I'm watching them play this game that the red card, the one you're trying to find, had just a little bend on the corner. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, yo, this guy doesn't seem to know that red card is bent. I'm going to beat this motherfucker. And I walked up to the table, and I said, let me play a hand. And I put my last $60 on that table, and he starts to shuffle and find the red card, find the red card. And I kept watching that bent card go around the table, make sure I kept my eyes on that bent card. And when he stopped shuffling, and he said, find the red card, I pointed to it with confidence. Here it is right here. And he flipped it over, and it was black. And he took my money. I couldn't fucking believe that. How did this nigga do that? Was that magic or sorcery? I was confused. So you know what I did? I sat there, and I watched him for a real long time play the game. And I realized that all those people who was doing all that hooting and hollering and betting, my God, they were his friends. They were in on the whole thing. I felt so wronged. I felt so stupid. And then the next sucker came up to the table and was about to put his money down. And I said, fuck that, man. Don't put your money there. All these niggas is in on it. It's a trick. And when I said that, the guy that was dealing, and this motherfucker was huge, snatched me up by my collar. Feel how strong he was when he grabbed me. I was a skinny little guy. And he was going to maul me. The only reason he didn't, I'm sure, is because he saw the fear in my face. And that fear, he looked at me. I saw his eyes go from hard to soft. He softened. Then he looked at me like the way a father would look at a child. And he said to me, young man, don't ever come between a man and his meal. I never forgot that either. Most niggas would have to run the streets for years to learn a lesson that profound. It took me 2 seconds. Never get between somebody and their paper. Taking a man's livelihood away from him is akin to killing him. In our contracts, oh, these contracts are crazy. You should hear the terminology they say in these contracts. To use your name and likeness in perpetuity throughout the universe. Who the fuck could possibly know what that means? Nobody does. It's so complicated, in fact, that when you're a kid like me, you have to hire somebody to tell you what that means. And you sit down at a table and you do the contract game. And that's how I got with Comedy Central. I signed a contract. But I signed the contract the way that a 28-year-old expectant father that was broke signs a contract. I was desperate. I needed a way out, and it wasn't good money, and it wasn't good circumstances, but what else am I going to do, I said. And all these white people sitting at that table told me, trust us, Dave, it's a good contract. And I looked around the table, and they all seemed to agree it was a good contract. But what if it was like that game of three-card Monte? What if they were all friends and I didn't know it? And the bag of money was Iceberg's money in the first place. The day I made that phone call, the day I committed to it, it gets announced that Netflix is streaming Chappelle's show. Not just Netflix, HBO Max is streaming it too. Let me tell you another story about HBO. No, hear me out. Did you know, before Chappelle's show was at Comedy Central, I pitched that show to HBO. I told them what I wanted to do. Now, these are executives. All they have to do is say, yeah, we'll take it, or no, thank you, we won't. But they didn't say either of those things. They went too far. They said, literally, what do we need you for? That's what they told me, as they kicked me out of the office. What do we need you for? And here we are, all these years later, and they're streaming the very show that I was pitching to them. So I'm asking them, what do you need me for? People think I made a lot of money for Chappelle's show. When I left that show, I never got paid. They didn't have to pay me because I signed the contract. But is that right? I found out that these people were streaming my work, and they never had to ask me, or they never had to tell me. Perfectly legal because I signed the contract. But is that... And I'll tell a joke. And they'll all look at me like I'm crazy. But 3 or 4 people will laugh really hard. And I'll be on stage like, yeah, that's good enough. Well, this next joke is one of those jokes that... It's not, you know what I mean? I like to tell it, but it never does good. But I'm gonna do it. You know why it doesn't do good? I'm not good at impressions, but this is an impression. You ready? Okay. This is not gonna work. All right, this is my impression. It's my impression of the dead people on the Titanic. You didn't let me finish. This is my impression of the dead people on the Titanic as the submersible was approaching their ship. That's good enough. All right, here it goes. I'm gonna do it. Okay, here it goes. Come, join us in our watery grave. Oh, buddy, that's funny to me. Listen, that is a funny way to die. 20 years from now, on my 70th birthday, I'm gonna take a submersible to see the submersible. Hopefully by then it should work. I like working for Netflix because when all those bad things happened to me, that company didn't even exist. And when I found out they were streaming Chappelle's show, I was furious. How could they not know? So you know what I did? I called them and I told them that this makes me feel bad. And do you want to know what they did? They agreed that they would take it off their platform just so I could feel better.
That's why I fuck with Netflix. Because they paid me my money, they do what they say they're gonna do, and they went above and beyond what you could expect from a businessman. They did something just because they thought that I might think that they were wrong. And I do. I think if you are fucking streaming that show, you're fencing stolen goods. They stole that from me. They just took it. And I'm not up here trying to tell you guys that I believe that Comedy Central gave me a raw deal just because I'm black. I believe that they gave me a raw deal because this fucking industry is a monster. It's the same monster that these Me Too bitches was trying to tell you about. But they hate the monster for how it fucks. And I hate that monster for how it eats. But my God, man, it's the same monster. Was on this theater, and the kid that walked through that door would feel anything other than pride in their school and in their endeavors. Well, that's untenable to me. So on Friday, I decided that I don't want my name on the school. Hear me out. The Ellington family is my family. When this controversy came out, when the students were angry, at the height of their anger, they said, we still want to name the theater after you. They taught the kids about the nuance of art and activism. And I feel, a great deal of success. And it came around. So it's not that they did not want to give this to me. They're still my family. And I'm not going to say I don't want it. I'm going to say I'll defer it. Rather than give this theater my name, I would like to give these students my message to them. So it is with great honor that I unveil the new name of this theater, the Gerard Carmichael Theater. I'm just kidding. I'm totally joking. Let me see if I can get this here. This theater should be called the Theater for Artistic Freedom and Expression. I want that for myself, and I want it for every student that's educated at this school. And when and if you are ever ready, you can... My father found for me the local comedy club in Washington, D.C. I called him. I found out when open mic night was, and I started to go there on Tuesday nights, just watch. And then one night I went on a weekend. I would get my money together and I would go to this comedy club and I would just watch these comedians, and sometimes they would talk to me. And I told one of the comedians after a show one night, I said, man, I really want to try to do this. And he said, well, he said, if you want to be a good comedian, you should know how to act. I said, why? He says, he didn't explain it. I said, okay, and I told my parents, and this is how I came to find out about Duke Ellington. My mother, she said, there's a place you can go where you can learn to act right here in Washington. It's a high school. I said, you mean I would get out of Eastern? The school year was already in full swing, and Ellington has a policy that they don't let people just come in the middle of the year. But Linda Gravatt, who was the head of the theater department at the time, very graciously took a meeting with me and my mother, and I get emotional thinking about it. Anybody that went here, you remember what it was first like when you first walked through the door? And it was in the afternoon and everyone was in their arts classes and the girls had tutus on and everyone was weird and walking around the hallway like you weren't sure where anyone was supposed to be, and you could hear people practicing their horns and shit all through the hallways. There was art bouncing off the walls. The minute I walked through the door, there was a gallery of all these children's work, and these pictures were amazing. My first thought when I walked through that door, I'm not good enough to be here, I'm sure. Miss Gravatt sat me down, she told me about the school, and you remember Miss Gravatt, she was very businesslike, but also very warm. She was intimidating, but palpably kind. She was a paradox of a human being. And she gave me a date for an audition. My mother said, okay, Dave, it's on you. Now, those of you who know me know that I didn't prepare for that audition. That audition was like a possession. It was just something that I was proud to have. But as the days got closer, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get something together. I didn't even know how to do an audition. I'd never done it before. So I went, I said, what do I need? They said a monologue. So I looked up monologue. And I went to the library, the MLK library, this huge library. I said, I gotta find something. And I found a piece in one of those yellow script books. It was a monologue by Mark Twain called The Judge's Spirited Woman. I learned it in a night. You know, it was not hard for me to memorize things. The next day, it was a Saturday, I think, and I came to the school, and they auditioned in what used to be this room, the original theater at Duke Ellington School of the Arts. And all the department heads sat in here, and the lights are in your eyes, and there's a bunch of kids who already go to the school who come on Saturday just to see who might be coming. And I talked to all these kids before I went in, and these kids were nothing like the kids at Easton. They were like them, but they were different. They were weird and funny and self-deprecating and things like this. And I remember I came out on stage and I did my audition, and it was like terrible. I froze up in the beginning. I started, and then I said, wait a minute, I'm messing up. Let me start again. And I was nervous, and I was scared. And in the middle of the audition, in the middle of the monologue, one of the teachers, Fred Leach, he said, Fred Leach, he goes, okay, that's enough. I said, well, there's still a little more. He goes, no, that is enough, he said. And I can't tell you, like, I was crushed. Without saying his disapproval, I knew it stunk. And I was right. When I walked in here, I knew I wasn't good enough to go to this school. And I thought to myself, fuck this school, that's stupid anyway. In first year theater, there's a question that they ask students from time to time. And it's a make or break question. And when we ask this question, you don't know. And the question is this. They say, why do you want to act? Now, if you say anything like, I want to be a star, you're not going to get in. I didn't know that. And I figured I already blew the audition, so I told him the truth. He said, why do you want to act? I don't. That's what I said. And they said, well, then why are you here? I said, because I want to be a comedian, and some comedian told me that if I want to be a good comedian, I need to learn how to act. And teachers look at each other and go, thank you very much, and I left. And I was walking down the hallway, kicking rocks. There was a kid that already went here. His name was Aiko Handy. And Aiko said, hey, man, I listened to him talking about you. I said, you did? He said, you're in. I said, what? He said, you're in. Well, that didn't make any sense.